Hey, how's it going, everybody? Adam Cleary from FourFourTwo here, and right, Jadon Sancho. How the did it get to this? Now, of course, as you well know, with any situation like this, there's a lot of stuff currently being said about it, which isn't necessarily completely factual, and a lot of very important stuff about it, which just isn't really being said at all. So if you will now join me, not physically, I can't reach you, it's just a metaphor, we will go back through the entire history of Jadon Sancho, look at all the little things that happened that led us to here, and then we'll sort of figure it out. Okay, so to start, if you will join me in the time machine, oh, it's very time machine-y, oh, we are going all the way back to summer 2017. Despacito is currently in the charts, I am working for a wrestling promotion and for some reason hitting people with Stone Cold Stunners, and Jadon Sancho is about to depart Great Britain. Now, 2 years prior to this, of course, Sancho arrived at Manchester City from Watford for a fee that could get anywhere up to £500,000 and was put on a fast track into the first team. But here, as we are in July 2017, Sancho is refusing to sign a new contract. Despite being just 16 at the time, Sancho feels there aren't enough guarantees over his playing time in the deal he's been offered, and not only stalls on the contract, but refuses to train. Man City have a sneaking suspicion that he may be trying to force a move. Fast forward 1 month to August 2017, and wouldn't you just know it, Jadon Sancho joins Borussia Dortmund for a fee of £8 million from Manchester City. Now, his time in Germany is considered an overwhelming success. He plays 137 games, he scores 50 goals, he gets 57 assists, and all the while, Manchester United are watching the situation with a very keen eye. Essentially, the story goes that Man United had had their beady little eye on Sancho even when he was at Watford, but were secretly quite pleased about his move to Dortmund because A, they probably couldn't guarantee him the kind of first team football he wanted either, so they couldn't move in and get him at that point, but more importantly, B, they didn't see Dortmund as the kind of team they couldn't tempt him away from. If he did develop the way they thought he was going to develop, they could then go in and buy him. And while, as we've said, Sancho's time in Dortmund was an outright success, it wasn't without its problems. In October 2017, Sancho is demoted to Dortmund's reserves. Peter Stoger, in temporary charge of Dortmund at the time, punishes Sancho for turning up late to training on several occasions by demoting him out of the first team squad. Jump to March 2018 and both Jadon Sancho and Phil Foden were dropped from the England under-19 side for a game against Latvia after they both turned up late to a team meeting. Again, certainly in the England setup, punctuality is seen as a very important thing, and even at youth level, if you can't turn up on time for the meetings or the briefings or the trainings or what have you, then you simply won't play. We then jump ahead to October 2019 and Dortmund boss Lucien Favre punishes him on several occasions, including dropping him to the reserves for games against Barcelona and Borussia Mönchengladbach, for returning late from England duty, for not being back at the club on time. Anyway, though, November 2019 now, and in a crunch tie with Bundesliga rivals Bayern Munich, Dortmund find themselves 4-0 down, and Jadon Sancho was hauled off in disgrace after just 36 minutes. He then goes on to say publicly, and stop me if this sounds familiar, that he feels he is being scapegoated by the club for the performance and feels they should have protected him more as their player. Now, it was around about this time that Sancho himself did an interview where he talked about these problems. He said that his timekeeping was an issue because he had a problem with his sleeping. Now, precisely what the nature of this problem was, he didn't specify whether it was a medical thing or just simply him going to bed late, but he did also say at the time he was big on playing Call of Duty with several Manchester United players, including Jesse Lingard, Marcus Rashford and Paul Pogba, and this is again where the rumours linking him with a move to Man United started to develop. All of his friends are there. Now, as somebody who was rather extensively playing Call of Duty at this exact point in human history, let me tell you, I had a problem with my sleeping as well, but that's because I was stopping up till 3 in the morning doing this.
I've got C4. Which helicopter? I've got one C4. Which helicopter?
The one outside the gas. That's...
Go on, get your pal in it. And your other pal.
Wait till he's right in the air.
Yeah.
Wait till he's like above the air.
June 2020 now, and Sancho ends up getting fined by the German FA for breaking lockdown rules in order to get a haircut. His teammate Emre Can, exacerbated with these continued problems, even says in the press he just has to be smarter and grow up with things like that. Now, obviously, it's worth pointing out why all these small little incidents are happening, as football is absolutely off the chain. He's a guaranteed starter for Dortmund, he's one of the brightest talents in the world, and he's now a regular fixture in the England squad heading into the European Championships. However, at the start of those championships in June 2021, reports start to suggest that he's reacted petulantly to not being in the starting 11 for England's opening game against Croatia. And if you cast your minds back here, despite the fact England went all the way to the final, had a fantastic tournament, they had a really slow start. They struggled against Croatia, they drew against Scotland, they only got that one goal, I think, in the final group game, and everyone was clamouring for him to throw Sancho in from the start, and yet Gareth Southgate resisted the temptation to do that. Subsequently, it has been suggested that the reason for that was because he was very unimpressed with the way he was training while he was at the time lobbying to get a move from Dortmund to Manchester United. And that's something that there is the tiniest little whiff of evidence for, because Sancho did start one game in that tournament when Saka was injured against Ukraine. He came into the starting 11 and he played really well, and Southgate in the post-match, asked about his selection, said that he had started to train really well now that his Man United move had been wrapped up. And like the rest of you, I have entirely suppressed what happened in the rest of that tournament, so that's the end of that bit. Alright, so we are now in July 2021, the 23rd of July 2021 to be precise, and Jadon Sancho is finally unveiled as Manchester United's big new signing of the summer. And this feels like such a big deal at the time, because having just finished second in the Premier League, Manchester United have gone out and bought a player they have been watching for 6 years and have a really good plan for how to use. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer had propelled Manchester United up the table with this 4-2-3-1 system, with Bruno Fernandes the central and creative linchpin in the 10. The plan was, in the 3 attacking positions ahead of him, to field Marcus Rashford, Mason Greenwood and Jadon Sancho, 3 young, hungry, technically gifted, athletically explosive players who could each play in multiple positions in that front line. Rashford was comfortable on the left or as the 9, Greenwood was comfortable as the 9 or on the right, and Sancho could play on the right or on the left. This meant that not only could you set them up in any number of different ways, but you could change the way you had them playing across the course of the game. It was going to be a nightmare for opposition teams to try and defend against. And if they really wanted to go for it, they had Edinson Cavani, who could come in as the 9, allowing the other 3 to string across in the attacking roles, and Bruno Fernandes to play as the most ambitious pivot you've ever seen. Now, given everything that's gone on since, the Mason Greenwood stuff especially, this does feel like an awfully long time ago, but at the time, it did seem like a really smart and really exciting way for Manchester United to set up. The problem is, it lasted a grand total of about 5 weeks. A mere 3 games into that season, and before this system had even been used once, Cristiano Ronaldo returned to Manchester United in the shock transfer move of that summer. And that was a huge problem. Because while Ronaldo still undoubtedly still had a lot of ability, he was the complete opposite kind of player that Manchester United had spent 2 years building this system around. It meant that at least one of these 3 players was always sacrificed to accommodate Ronaldo, and the 2 that did play weren't only no longer able to be positionally flexible, but they had to do his running for him. And as a result, it tended to be Sancho, who was the most technically gifted, but probably also the least athletic of the 3, who usually made way. Flitted in and out of games, he flitted in and out of the squad, he contributed 3 goals across his entire debut season, and Manchester United dropped all the way from second to 6th. But the following season, with Erik Ten Hag clearly seeing Ronaldo as more of a peripheral figure, Sancho started brightly. He was in the first 11 for all but 2 of their first 12 Premier League games, and he headed towards the World Cup looking to be in good form. But after getting ill about 2 weeks before the season took its break for the World Cup, Sancho then missed out on the squad entirely and didn't reappear for Manchester United until the middle of February. That was an absence of nearly 3.5 months. Now, what exactly the reasons or the thinking behind this enforced break were aren't widely known, and to be honest, they're not really anybody's business, but certainly at the time the reports were that Ten Hag had sent him to the Netherlands to train with amateur club OJC Rosmalen to recover both his physical and mental fitness. Jump to February 2023 and he makes his return to the Manchester United first team, coming off the bench against Leeds United to grab a dramatic late equaliser. The club then only lose 4 more Premier League games that season, and they are astonishingly, the only 4 games where Jadon Sancho doesn't start. And that then brings us to the summer just gone. Things finally looked like they had turned around for Jadon Sancho at Manchester United. He was definitely in his manager's thinking for the first 11. We hadn't had any reports of bad timekeeping or bad behaviour or bad attitudes for a very long time. This finally felt like it was going to be Sancho's season. Except it just hasn't been. He wasn't selected in the starting 11 for any of Manchester United's 3 opening fixtures. And then we get to the Arsenal game and he's not even in the squad at all. Now, Ten Hag, when quizzed about this, simply just said that Jadon, on his performances in training, we did not select him. You have to reach a level every day at Manchester United, and we can make choices in the front line, so for this game, he was not selected. And the thing is, this didn't even feel like that big a deal during the match. Like, Ten Hag famously dropped Marcus Rashford last season for being late for a team meeting just as part of club discipline. Then Rashford came on, put in a performance, scored the winning goal, and everybody just kind of forgot about it. They drew a line under it. It was just seen as good squad management. And this, at the time, just kind of felt like the same thing. But then, of course, immediately afterwards, Sancho took to his social media pages and posted the now infamous following statement. "Please don't believe everything you read. I will not allow people saying things that is completely untrue. I've conducted myself in training very well this week. I believe there are other reasons for this matter that I won't go into. I've been a scapegoat for a long time, which isn't fair. All I want to do is play football with a smile on my face and contribute to my team. I will continue to fight for this badge no matter what." Now, what precisely the reaction to this internally at Manchester United has been since is not strictly known, but reports today are that Ten Hag is going to come down extremely hard on Sancho as he sees this as a challenge to his authority. I mean, effectively, he's called his manager a liar in the wake of an absolutely galling defeat. So it's probably not so much that, like, the shit has hit the fan, but more just imagine that there's shit everywhere and Sancho's trying to point the shitty finger at Ten Hag, but the club are going, no, that isn't him, that's you, that one, you've done that. So Sancho either now needs to, like, clean all this shit up himself or just leave the shitty room because it's horrible. Good metaphor that, Adam. Top stuff. And then you add to that all the other stories that are coming out that apparently some of his teammates at Manchester United and previously some of his teammates at Dortmund weren't all that impressed with him, both in terms of his attitude and just his personality, and he's not really well liked. And you can already start to see the mechanisms of the football PR machine starting to turn. Maybe all that's true. Maybe he wasn't that popular. Or maybe it is a club that's anticipating having a problem with him, already starting to brief that he is in fact the problem and not the way they run their business. Who knows? But what do we actually know about all of this? What is clearly and definably true? Well, we do know that Jadon Sancho, despite his immense talent, is a player who has struggled with his timekeeping, has struggled with his levels of professionalism, and that has got him into trouble with both his teammates and his coaches in the past. And we also know that Erik Ten Hag and his big shiny head do not stand for that at all. He will drop players if their standards fall anywhere short of what he expects, and you combine point A, fireworks, with point B, man with matches, and every single thing else about his levels of popularity, what goes on behind the scenes, the friction between him and the manager, a potential move, this and that and the other, is just, at the minute, noise. The only two people who can paint you a fuller picture than that are Jadon Sancho, who is pointing at Erik Ten Hag and saying he's the problem, and Erik Ten Hag, who is pointing at Jadon Sancho and saying that he's the problem. So yeah, that's it. That's literally all there is. But if you'd like to speculate wildly about it in the comments below, please feel free to do so. We'd dearly love to hear what you think about these things. But keep it sane now, remember. And please do subscribe to FourFourTwo while you're here on YouTube. That is something that really, really does help us out. Clicky button. Clicky button. Get me on Twitter. Get me on Twitter at Adam Cleary, Clery. And if you've got $5.99 burning a hole in your back pocket, which you do, the brand new FourFourTwo is in stores now. And look at it. It's so pretty. But until the meantime, that's your lot. I've been Adam Cleary. I'll see you later. Bye.